Set to go. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of Kimberley City Council for Monday, February the 19th, held here on the homelands of the Ktunaxa peoples. Welcome to everybody in the gallery here tonight, as well as those watching via the YouTube channel. Please note that we have Councillors McBain and Cairns that are online this evening, both of them suffering from bugs of some sort. So thanks, folks, for sparing us, and thanks for being here online. So first up, additional late items. Do we have any, Maurice?
There's no late item, Mr. Mayor.
All right, hearing none. Could I have a mover to adopt the agenda? Councillor McGuire, thank you. Councillor Roberts seconds. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next up, we have the adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting held on September the 9th. Mover, please. Councillor McGuire, thank you. And Councillor Cairns seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. And finally, the minutes of the regular meeting held on January the 27th. Councillor McGuire moves. Councillor Fox seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. All right, formalities out of the way. We have 3 delegations this evening. We will move our way through first with the RCMP third quarter report. Welcome, Sergeant Woodcox.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And this report's going to encompass the third quarter of fiscal year 2024, so it'll be October till December. I'll talk about some incidents that happened in that timeframe, and I can talk also about some incidents that have happened lately. So calls for service were up 7% from the same time last year. There's no one particular reason that's the case. 12 reports were forwarded to Crown Counsel for criminal charges. During that time, we went to the school 62 times. So like at the beginning of the fiscal year, I said youth was one of our important things. So our officers went to all the schools 62 times in those quarters. So that's up from a long time before, and we're making good strides in that area. I also had some concerns from the Marysville School about the crosswalk and the concerns down there. So I went on numerous occasions to be down there in the morning with their crossing guard. I thought there were some concerns. I brought those concerns up to the Ministry of Transportation and forwarded some emails from the school and from our office to the Ministry of Transportation. So I was told sometime in the spring somebody may be coming to do some kind of assessment in that area. And with the daycare opening too, there's going to be more vehicle traffic and pedestrian traffic. So I think the biggest concern is it's on the highway. There's not a lot of signage. So just to let you know, there's been concerns. I have passed that on to the mayor and let him know what I've done, but I had some concerns. I don't think the lighting's good enough down there. I think needs to be some more signage. So I've passed my concerns on to the Ministry of Transportation. We'll see where that goes. Some files of interest that happened over this quarter, and I think I might have mentioned this before last time, but in October, early October, there was a stolen vehicle from Calgary, a stolen vehicle, excavator, and trailer. We were able to stop that and arrest an individual. That was probably $150,000 worth of property. The good news is that individual was arrested on October 10th and actually is still in custody. And he's a prolific offender with extensive criminal record. So for once, we actually got a positive outcome. And I believe he's in jail until March, where he tends to plead guilty. That's what I've heard. So that's just one positive thing from the court. I put a couple other things in here. As you know, we had a fatal accident down by Wycliffe in December, unfortunately prior to Christmas. So we're just waiting for some final reports to come back, a report from the analyst and mechanical inspection on the truck. We still believe at this time there's nothing criminal. We believe that the road conditions most likely played the biggest role in that. So like I said, it's not done. We're waiting for some of those reports, but I just wanted to get back to everyone here tonight as to where that stands. Something recent that was in the news, we did have to, on January 30th, so just recently, we had a mail-in crisis up in the Stemwinder area, so we had to call an emergency response team. So that incident took the entire evening. We actually had to evacuate some of the other condos in the building due to safety concerns and comments made by that individual. So that matter began at about 6 p.m., didn't end until 4 o'clock the next day. No one was harmed, and that male has been remanded in custody. So he's sent to jail until his next court appearance on February the 18th. And again, I just like to thank the public. Sometimes these things are dynamic and we have to remove people from the residence, but it is for public safety reasons. So, and I just want to thank everyone that came to assist us. So, besides that, one thing that's really important to me is getting involved with the public. So as I told you before, we do a lot of things with the church in town as to getting food hampers and stuff to people. So when we come across people that are in need, and I'll be honest, I've told council before, I don't know if I've ever seen it so bad where I've seen so many people in need, and whether it's a cost of groceries or unemployment, but that balance between that and the church has been great. I imagine we've probably helped 30 people with giving them food. And some of that stuff is tied people over to the next payday, but that thing has worked wonders. And I know I've talked about that numerous times here, but I can't speak highly enough about everything the church has done for the community. Even the Elks Club over Christmas, they gave us $24 or $50 gift cards to save on. And again, we were able to hand those out to people in need over the holidays. So again, very rewarding thing to do. The latest thing we've done, and we do now on a regular basis, is we go every morning to Garden View and have coffee with the seniors, and we pour coffee and tea with the seniors, and we've actually become pretty good friends with them. And I think they look forward to that as much as we do. So that's kind of what we've been doing on our own when we have some time to do that. And as usual, take any questions you might have.
All right, excellent. Thanks for the report, Steve. Council, questions, comments? Go ahead, Councillor Dunneback.
I'd like to say thanks for showing your concern with the intersection at Marysville. Been a hot topic of mine, and I think that as the community grows and the impact in a positive way that the daycare has there, there's also, I think, an enhanced danger issue with congestion and, like I say, not enough lighting. And thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the school had actually contacted me, so that's why I went down myself to stand with the crossing guard. It doesn't do me much good to sit in the office and talk to people, but when I went down there, I probably had to stand out in the highway 5 or 10 times to slow people down. And I don't know if it's just because it's on the highway. I don't know if it's because it's 7 o'clock in the morning, people aren't paying attention. But again, the last thing we want to see is some child get hurt down there. So thank you.
Further, Council. All right, excellent. Thanks so much, Steve. Really appreciate you coming here.
Yeah.
We'll see you again in 3 months.
Yeah, hopefully before. Thank you for your time.
Look forward to it. Thank you. All right, next up, we have Marie Stang from the Kimberley District Heritage Society. Hi, Marie.
Hello.
Welcome this evening, and the podium is yours.
It's mine.
All yours.
Good evening. First off, I'd like to begin by saying thank you. We have appreciated the support that Council's given us on our standing grant to have organization have ongoing service on a regular basis in the community. I'd also like to thank personally, like Councillor Fox, for agreeing to be our representative. And that's something we've never had as a rep on council. So that's really great. The Kimberley District Heritage Society is nearing 12,000 artifacts and 12,000 archival photos in the collection. The archival photos are available through the Columbia Basin Institute of Regional History, of which we're a partner, and I'm also a member of their board. We participated in a lot of events in 2024. We always do the first Saturdays from July to October. We participated in the Kimberley Ambassador Program. Through the Chamber, we held 2 tours at the museum for those ambassadors. We did both Rediscover Kimberley events, which I saw the mayor at, and Diana. We also were involved in meetings regarding volunteerism in Kimberley with many other community groups. And that's we're all experiencing a lack of volunteers. So it's what can we do? What can we do different to attract people? We were also involved in the research for Still Standing TV show. That was numerous Zoom calls and in-person meetings when they came to Kimberley. So that was, I probably put in about 12 or 14 hours with those people. Yeah. Collaboration with Keith Powell on the Forgotten Kimberley book, which I know he presented to council a copy of. And then our latest collaboration is the Interpretive Heritage Panel Potter project. So this is something brand new. It just started in January, the talks to do this. So it wasn't in our budget forecast for 2025 because we're really just getting it off the ground. So we've had committee meetings. We've had 2 or 3 of those so far. And what we want to do is put heritage panels similar to the one that was done for Audie in the Plateau, in the various planters, and they would all have, you know, obviously about the buildings and the people, right? So we're going to try with maybe 6 and see how that goes. And if we get more funding, we'll do 6 more. So we'll see how it goes after the first sort of initial grouping. We did school tours, which we always do. And a lot of them we do in conjunction with the library, which it helps the library and it helps me so that the class is split. They have them for half the time, I have them, and then they switch. So it's sort of a boon for both of us because we get a little bit of a break not having, you know, 30 kids at once, right? So each year we receive numerous research requests. I don't even really have an accurate count because sometimes I'm just answering an email because I already know the answer of what they want to know. So we do family history, history of property in town, and then we provide history for like environmental purposes. You know, if a property has to be sold and they need to know the background of it. So let's see. So we're looking to do some tech upgrades in the fall. So that's we put that in the budget. The challenge for the next couple of years is going to be to find a replacement for me because I will be 65 then and I'll probably retire in 2027. But the biggest thing the board is worried about is that any candidate will have trouble finding accommodation if they're coming from outside. So that's something we're really going to have to look at, like try and keep our ears open for places if, you know, so does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Marie. I appreciate not just the presentation, but the documentation that came along with it. Lots of great detail in there. Council. I have a question.
Okay.
12,000 artifacts.
Yep.
So you don't have a lot of room.
No.
Do you rotate or?
Oh yeah, I'm
it...
always changing the displays. Well, you were there, you saw I did curling. Well, in the summer it was golf, right? The 100th anniversary of the golf club. I'm always changing things. But the biggest thing is we take nothing of a certain size anymore because we just don't have room to store it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the bare facts, you know.
A lot of artifacts.
Yep.
Yeah. Councillor Dunneback, go ahead.
Are you going to leave us your playbook?
No, that depends. That depends. I don't have a playbook. It's all up here.
Presumably there will be appropriate overlap.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would stay on. Likely I would end up coming on to the board and staying on as a volunteer. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't just walk off and leave somebody. Yeah. No. After 35 years of doing it, I think I would have to transition someone into that.
Absolutely.
So.
Further? Thanks very much, Marie.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate you being here tonight.
Yep.
Thank you. And thanks for all the great work you do down there.
Oh, thank you very much.
Next up, we have Ed Elm, representing the Kimberley Arts Council, Center 64, providing us with an update.
You know, it just occurred to me when I was driving down here tonight that in early life as a real estate developer, I often spoke to groups like yours asking permission to spend my money. And tonight I'm here trying to tell you what we did with your money. So with that in mind, I'd like to echo Marie's comments and thank you for the help you've given us and the support you've given us, the free rent on the building, basically on our standing grant. It all goes to a good cause. I'd like to frame my comments on the key word of benchmarks, because to me, there's been some benchmarks in Center 64 that have driven forward a process. One of the most serious benchmarks, of course, is COVID. And I made this comment the other night, thinking that how many of us think of COVID in our brain calendar as something before COVID and something after COVID. COVID blew a giant hole through this town. It closed businesses. It had people laid off. It caused a lot of damage. And on top of that, of course, we know that some idiot set the gymnasium or the Tiny Tots thing on fire, and somebody else set the top of the chairlift on fire. Those kinds of events have a pushback from the community in terms of their willingness to engage with grant giving and volunteerism and so on. And that became a problem. In 2023, at the end of COVID, you could feel it in the town. You could feel that companies weren't as flush as they weren't as willing to give donations out. Grants became harder to get. The requirements for them became tougher, and Center 64 carried on, for sure. I wasn't part of it then, but they carried on providing the same kinds of entertainment and facilities that they have now. At the end of that year, basically, 2023, they had a AGM. That's the next benchmark. For me, it's a huge one because that was the day that I basically was elected to the board. That council at that time spoke to quite a large room full of members. We have something like 480 odd members of Center 64. They spoke to them basically to say, had a couple of tough years and we're looking at a loss this year. And there were questions from the floor as to, well, what are we going to do if you guys go broke? And the answer, of course, was, well, we just have to turn the lights out. You know, there was an audible gasp in the room when I was there. And they called for elections. There were 3 spots left. There was one councillor who wasn't going to run again. And we all stood up and did our face bragging. You know, who am I? Why would you vote for me? And you know, just at the risk of being immodest, I had to basically say, well, I'm a businessman. I've worked for a corporate bank, a trust company. I was a treasurer of a publicly traded company. I have an MBA in financing, and I ran my own business. And I understand the pursuit of profit and the avoidance of loss. I don't think Center 64 ever was anything more than a nonprofit. It shouldn't be making money, but it shouldn't be, or it is also a not-for-loss organization. I don't think Center 64 should run at a loss. And I think that it behooves the directors of that organization to manage it like a business. Make sure that we provide the facilities and the activities and the events for the people in Kimberley, but also to run it as a business. So with that in mind, and now this is the next benchmark, we set out with this mandate because, quite frankly, of the 4 people that were elected, 2 of us had financial backgrounds. And the mandate was pretty clear from the questions on the floor that we want to get Center 64 back on to the right side of the ledger. And the mandate was pretty clear to me that we had to do something about not relying on year-old budgets, not doing regular budget updates, not really being aware of what we were spending and where the money was coming from and where it was going. So we started off by instituting the derivation of a cash flow projection so that on a monthly basis, we could project what was coming in and what was going out. So we could kind of fine tune our adjustments as to should we delay this or accelerate that. We had monthly budget updates in terms of where we are. They weren't always great, but at least we were making that effort. We also had a policy in the council to basically charge the executive director with the implementation of basically looking for ways that the various user groups and activities in the center could contribute to our general and administrative costs. That is the biggest single challenge that we have at Center 64 in the various user groups, the clay collectives and the weavers and the spinners and live at Studio 64, all the ones that you know about, Flip 64. They all kind of break even. Some of them lose a bit, some of them make a little bit, but they basically carry themselves. The problem is that they don't contribute to our general and administrative expenses. Clearing the snow off the sidewalk, keeping the lights on, heating the building, paying the salaries of the people that do the work. That's a problem. So as a businessman, I said, well, look, we should have budgets for each of these people. We should have included in their budgets, we should have a contribution to overhead. And when we make a grant application, we should include that in the budget. Well, you can't get money for operations. Long and short of it is that we started to lean on people. And here I will admit to be at fault, because as a businessman, you know, you press buttons and you hope things happen. And by leaning on our user groups, that was a mistake. We leaned on them. It wasn't accepted very readily, and I admit that. We were trying to squeeze the lemon, and that was not working. Okay, you all know about it. You all have heard the stories. You've all heard the alienation of the community towards Center 64, the alienation to the members. And I suggest that maybe there was some alienation in the city. And I apologize for that. It's my watch, and that shouldn't have happened. You know, it takes a while. I'm not as smart as I look. But I don't look very smart. But I did start to figure out, you know what, this is not working. And in the fall, we really started to think about, you know, we have to change things. We have to find basically a new way to do our business. So one of the things that we did, for example, was to conduct a survey of 269 responses. Did a long thing. We did it about 6 weeks. We asked all sorts of questions. If you take out the wide brush and say, well, what are the results? The bottom line was people said, look, we want access to that building 7 days a week. We want it open till 8 o'clock at night. We want to be able to come in there and do other things. This is not just a building that houses some specific groups, some elite artists or playmakers or whatever. We want access to that building. Basically, they're saying, we want a community center. We want a place to hang out. We want to be able to send our kids in there and let them do Highland dancing. I want my grandfather to go in and learn how to tie a fly to go fishing. There's certainly in Kimberley a culture that is a young culture. Average age is about 45. 76% of the people in Kimberley are 64 years old or younger. The average household income, I think, is something like $52,000. You guys would know, you know this stuff better than I would, but a little bit of research kind of gets it out for you. We started to realize that in changing this program, we've got a set amount of money, and we have to think of a way to restructure not only financially but socially. So we made some tough decisions, which are just not fun to make. One of them was we opted to not renew the contract for our current executive director. We had that opportunity in the contract, and we gave her a couple of weeks' notice. And of course, you can well imagine that wasn't a wonderful thing to have happen. But we realized that the people that live in Kimberley aren't just here for the skiing and the golf and the fishing and the hiking and God, all the things we love. All of us love that. The people here are also, I think, and I could be wrong, Don, you'd know better than you've been here forever, but I think the people here are also include the young moms with a couple of kids who say there's more to the fabric of life than just going skiing. There's art, there's drama, there's theater, there's music, there's things that our kids should be able to do. Okay? You know, case in point, we hired somebody to do an improv theater group for the 14 to 18-year-olds. Can you imagine your 16-year-old son or daughter in grade 11 or whatever it would be, nervous, you know, teenager, we've all been teenagers, going to an improv class and learning how to stand up in front of a group and say things. That helps. That's what we're here for, to do that kind of stuff. We made the decision at the start of 2025, we've got about 100K in the bank. We're not going to have an executive director because I don't want to offer that career job until we have sustainable financing, because I want to hire a professional. I've interviewed a couple of people, one woman who was an executive director in Halifax for the local Chamber of Commerce. She had a budget of $500,000. She wanted to move from Newfoundland to Kimberley to take that job. Well, you can't, I couldn't in all good faith offer her that job until we know that we're going to survive. And the byword for the last 8 months has been financial survivability. So we said, okay, let's keep the lights on. Let's get all these people still doing programs. Let's get Live at Studio 64 to bring in Kara Luft and Barney Bentall and now Fear, I forget what the last name is. You know, they were going to, Studio 64, we're going to quit in November. They said, no, I don't want to do this anymore. We got to keep those lights on. I talked to Clay Collective. I said, you guys have got to bring people in. You've got to do workshops. You've got to do classes. You've got to keep doing what you're doing. Click 64, keep having those movies, make that popcorn. Keep this thing alive, because what we are going to do, and some of you know this already. Let me back up a bit. In Golden, a couple of years ago, they hired a guy by the name of Bill Usher, who on behalf of, and Don, you know this specifically, on behalf of Kicking Horse Culture, which is like Kimberley Arts Council, they went to Electoral Area A and to the city of Golden. They put together basically an application that said, we need you to support us on a permanent basis to cover our G&A so we can hire the people to do the programs that we want to offer to the people. They now have that in place. So now they have a process where their G&A is covered, but they can on the side do all these other kinds of all these other programs. We've hired Bill Usher. He's coming the end of March for a 2-day seminar, and we are going to create a narrative going forward as an application, which will eventually land on your desk and will land on the desk of RDEC, to look for a means of more sustainable funding. And we're going to hopefully shift Center 64 from being a place where experts in play or experts in watercolor can be joined by Mrs. Smith down the road who wants her kid to learn how to watercolor. That's kind of my idea of what we're trying to do. It's not new. It's not any different than what's already been happening, but it's basically something that I think we could benefit Kimberley with. Just to tie up a couple little last knots. I mean, I'm aware of the resort development strategy that you have in Kimberley. I'm aware of the reasons for building the stage and doing the landscaping. I know that you have a grant from Kenarmley Basin Trust for upwards of $400,000. And I know that's part of a strategy to get a little bit bigger piece of the pie from the resort municipalities grant in British Columbia. Having that next door to Center 64 with us as a community center, can you see what we can do here? We can do collaboration with the Rotary Club. We can do collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce. We have somebody already who said, I got a great idea. We're going to do a 2-day mountain music festival. And we'll open up your stage with the first night with that. Well, it's probably not going to work because of the timing, but we have some great opportunities here as a community good. This may require you going to a referendum, it may require some soul searching as to what Kimberley should offer to the people that live in Kimberley. But as a very recent transplant, I've only been here 9 years. I'm a newcomer, right? Because unless you've been here for 35 years, you're a newcomer. So we're going to do that. We're going to make that application. We have a very determined board of 6 talented people. We've hired an assistant for John Stafford, our curator. We have outsourced on a continuing basis our bookkeeping. We've hired a very professional, capable, talented Diana Fox as our grant writer. We also, in the late fall, we got a Columbia Basin Trust grant to hire a guy by the name of Greg Fisher, who used to own Top Crop, to make some sense out of our accounting. We had 2 different, they don't talk to each other very kindly. We have one system that collects money, one system that pays money, and they don't talk to each other very well. So we have to sort that out. That's a layover from years past where we need to get that in shape. So we're doing that. It leads me to tell you tonight, we're not here asking you for any money. I'm not here with my hand out. We have some money in the bank and we are prepared to put our work where our mouth is. We're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to make this happen. Simple as that.
Outstanding, Ed. Great message. And congratulations on all the progress that you made over, this last year. As you said, I think we have felt a lot of the pain along with you, but you're well on your way to much better things. Great, great message tonight. Council, questions or comments for Ed? Go ahead, Councillor Roberts.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ed. I think it behooves me to say that I have a 50-year relationship with Centre 64. Since I was the person that put the $200 down on the bid to make this building start. And my friend Mary and I worked that through till we had an art center. I named it with the spelling CENTRE in French because there was all kinds of grants if you did something for the French in those years. And so I really feel the pain that this group is going through. I have been a proponent my entire career with Centre 64 of the fact that this is a segment of society that is often ignored. The children who are musical, the children who are artistic, the children who have a different skill set than the children that are athletes. And that was my family growing up. And so I had a soft spot for that. My brothers and sisters won awards because of their skill and the fact that my mother was a music teacher and my father had a band, all of those things. And yet when I came back to live in Kimberley, there was one little square room that was put aside for arts and crafts. And it just didn't ever feel right to me. We need to be able as a city to pay attention, not just to the skaters, not just to the curlers, not just to the skiers, but that whole segment of the culture that makes our population and our growth. And my husband and I always argued, like, which came first? Was it the artists or the hunters? And he said, well, Sandra, it was the hunters, obviously. And he said, what were the artists drawing? They were drawing the hunters hunting. And so there was always that crossover. That both are important. Both have a really important dynamic impact on the community that we're attempting to balance. And so I'm really happy to see this direction taken because I just feel as though it's something that, for me personally, that we really need to support. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Further? All right, Ed, thank you for being here tonight. Great message and more to come. We'll look forward to it. Okay, council, next up we have bylaw 2781, which is the 5-year financial plan bylaw for first, second, and third readings. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor McGuire, thank you very much. Councillor Roberts seconds. Krista, do we have any further discussion on this baby?
Well, I'll just mention that at the January 20th special budget meeting, council approved the 2025 to 2029 capital non-capital plan, as well as directed staff to incorporate the 2025 projects into year 2 of the current 5-year financial plan. So we're bringing this bylaw number 2781 in front of council tonight for consideration of first 3 readings. And this amendment will allow staff to get an early start of procurement for those 2025 projects, which will improve the likelihood of contractor availability and competitive pricing. And just without this amendment, any new or amended projects would need to be put on hold until the 2025 to 2029 financial plan bylaw would be adopted in May.
Awesome. Thanks, Krista. Yeah, it's hard to believe it's toward the end of February already.
Yes,
So
yeah.
contractor procurement is a really big thing right now. Councillor Roberts, go ahead.
Oh, Krista, did anything change that we missed or what is it? Why do we need to do this now?
So there's just from the current 5-year financial plan, there's just been some projects that maybe the timing has shifted to
Okay.
earlier, or the cost has increased due to inflationary increases, or some new projects as well have come on board.
Okay, thank you.
Further, council? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. All right, next up under new business, we have travel expense grant applications, 2 that have come in, and the motion on the floor is that council approve the individual travel and grant application received from Kimberly athlete Esme Escalin, and direct staff to process payment of $300 in accordance with our community grants policy. Councillor McGuire moves and Councillor Fox seconds. Any discussion on this? All those in favor? Motion is carried. The second motion is the council approve individual travel and expense grant application from Ethan Escalin and direct staff to process a payment of $300 in accordance with the policy. Councillor McGuire moves. Councillor Karen seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. So Pam, can you just kind of give us a word or two on this particular pot that we have? Kind of what's the demand, kind of how much we got in there? If you could just,
The community grants policy, we hold $1,000 for these individual travel and expense grants. Last year, we weren't taken up on it at all. So that funding just went back into general revenue. This year, Jody Escalin reached out and asked if I knew of any possible way that she could help her athletes. And the money's there. So if this $600 is gone now, there's $400 remaining to the end of 2025.
awesome. Is there a minimum or a maximum for requests?
There is, it's by the event that they're holding. If it's a provincial event, it's $100. A national event is $300. International is $500. They are participating in all 3 of those categories, but Jody, in conversation with her, we decided that we would go kind of on the low range just to leave some money in the pot.
All right, excellent. Thanks, Pam. Yep, go ahead, Councillor Donneback.
So what's the time frame for the money that's left over for somebody to apply for that?
Up to December 31st.
Up to December
Yeah,
31st?
we run from January 1st to December 31st.
Okay, that's awesome. Is there a way that we can like let this be known to the public more so we can sponsor these youth just because everything's so expensive, and rather than putting that money back into a general fund, I'd love to see us spend every last penny of it.
Absolutely, we can do some social
Yep.
media on it, and the application forms are available just on our website if anybody's interested from this meeting.
Thanks for that, Kevin. Okay, next up, we have the READY grants, the resident directed grants, the local selection committee terms of reference. The READY grants are the CDT money allocated to the community this year. The motion on the floor is that council endorse the READY grant local selection committee terms of reference as attached in the report, and that council appoint councillors Diana Fox, Woody McGuire, and Sandra Roberts as City Council representatives on the READY Grant Selection Committee, term to end September 30th, 2026. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Dunneback, thank you. And Councillor Fox seconds. Pam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in with the resident directed grants or the READY grants, in previous years, the whole of council would essentially listen to the public meeting that we would hold here in council chambers. It was a very tight room. Then you would go away with your spreadsheets and everybody would allocate the funds. The new guidelines for municipalities and electoral area directors provided by the regional district outlines a few kind of better ways that we can do that process. And they still expect that we will hold a public meeting. They would like us to be able to include the public more, which we really haven't been able to do because we've been holding that meeting in this room. So if we hold the meeting at Centennial Hall and all of council is involved, it becomes a very difficult task. It becomes a special council meeting and it's offsite and it's difficult to do. So in keeping with the guidelines for municipalities, we are eligible to select a local selection committee. It can be made up of council members or the general public. But in this case, we thought it would be best to keep council at that level of involvement. So we will hold the meeting at Centennial Hall on April 7th, and we will invite the public to be able to attend so that the public can also provide input into the projects that people will be presenting. Yeah, which will be, I think, a really great alternative. And in keeping with the guidelines that were provided by the regional district, I think it works well for everybody.
Yeah, so the process is very similar to the community grants process that we went through this year. Yeah.
Exactly. It will somewhat mimic that process. Staff won't be involved to that level, but yeah.
Council, questions, comments? Go ahead, Councillor Dunneback.
Yeah, I think it's great. A little bit of transparency for everything. So people, if they have comments, they have a choice to come and speak. And if not, everybody gets what they need, I guess. So it's awesome. Thanks.
Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Next up, we have the Kimberley Health Center Society loan request for replacement of rooftop units, presentation of which we saw a few weeks ago by the Society. And the motion on the floor is that council direct the corporate officer to post notice to the city of the city's intention to lend $100,000 from the unrestricted general operating surplus to the Kimberley Health Center to be repaid over a period of 10 years with interest, which is to be calculated annually at the rate available from the city to the city from the Municipal Finance Authority. Mover, please. Councillor McGuire, thank you. Councillor Karen seconds. Yeah, I'm not sure. Do we want to have any comments on this? Either Krista or Jim?
I can speak to it briefly, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, ask Jim.
As mentioned at the January 27th meeting, representatives from Kimberley Health Center Society attended as a delegation to present their 2025 budget and also to request the loan from the city. The health center or the society own that facility, and they make determinations and recommendations with regard to any capital expenditures that need to be put into that facility to keep it operating. They identified this year that 3 rooftop units that provide cooling and ventilation to the facility were 3 years beyond their useful lives and need a replacement. So they went out and got some quotes, 3 quotes for those units. The society has $20,000 that they're willing to put towards the cost of these units or that they have available to put towards it. And so the amount that they need to get that work done is $100,000. So as indicated, the city is being asked to provide a loan to the society of $100,000, which would be repaid over a period of 10 years. The rate available to the city for a 10-year loan from the Municipal Finance Authority right now is about 3.89%, or I think it was 3.85 today. So we'll have a look at what that posted rate is when the agreement is entered into, and that's the rate that'll be used. There's requisite advertising that's needed anytime an arrangement like this is made between the society and a municipality. So we'll be putting an ad out in the local paper for a couple of weeks. And after that, entering into the agreement that's attached to the report here.
Councillor McGuire.
Yeah, I'm just curious, the interest rate is going to be based on the current interest rate. Does that interest rate change for us over the term of the loan? And the second question is just what kind of administrative burden does that put on the city, this type of arrangement?
Yeah, so we won't actually be taking the loan through the Municipal Finance Authority. There's a lot of administrative work involved in that. We'd have to adopt a borrowing bylaw, seek the assent of the electors to do the borrowing. So what we'd be doing is similar to if we were taking the loan out through MFA, whatever the rate is on that date will be fixed for that 10-year period.
And then it's administrative?
Not much, if at all. It's just really take the annual payment. The way the agreement's written, we don't even have to send an invoice. It's just they need to diarize that. We accept the payment, put it into the bank. So
Or automatic debit. That works
Yeah.
too.
you betcha.
Okay, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. And further, that upon completion of the requisite advertising, the mayor and corporate office to be authorized to execute the agreement between the city and the Kimberley Health Society in the form attached to the staff report. Mover, please. Councillor Fox, thank you. And Councillor Karen seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Okay, we have one item under correspondence for receipt this evening. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor McGuire, thank you. Councillor Fox seconds. Anything to note? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. All right, we do have, that's kind of the end of the line on items in the regular meeting this evening. We do have an in-camera meeting. But given the time, what I'd like to do, we have lots of time this evening to go around and ask if anybody wants to report on any of the meetings that you have been at. Councillor Roberts, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've had the opportunity since I have in my new portfolio to spend a couple of meetings with the Chamber of Commerce. They had a couple of ideas that we've worked with. We'll be working with Maurice, one of them, which is trying to find who the new business are in town. It's a real difficult thing. And in terms of City Hall, they can't just share that out. That's kind of private information. So we talked about the ability of a form to be adjusted so that when someone opens up a new business application for a business license, that one of the boxes on the form could be, would you like to have information or be contacted by your local Chamber of Commerce? And that was deemed to be by the corporate officer a solution. And so they're pretty excited about that, because I think one of the things that the most important pieces of being a chamber is when you see that you have a new member, the British Columbia Chamber of Commerce has a whole parcel of products that could be beneficial, including health insurance through them, or different kinds of things that they have at the chamber level that they negotiate for the 38,000 small businesses in the province to take part in. So if you can bring some of those businesses on site to the chamber, there's a lot of benefits through the BC Chamber that they can be
Yeah, cool.
privy to. So
Very good.
I hope that works out. They're going to get in touch with Maurice if they haven't already.
The privacy legislation is so tight, you know, and basically you can't have public information that
Yeah.
can be shared.
Yeah.
It's really quite frustrating. Okay, cool. Thanks for that. Okay, hearing no other, could I have a mover to go in camera? Thank you, Councillor McGuire, and Councillor Karen seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. All right, we'll take 2 minutes and away we go. Thanks for being here. Eric, can you turn your mic on?